Michael Myers has worn many masks throughout the entire Halloween franchise. Some were really good, some were really bad, so let's rate them. So before I get into rating these masks, guys, I'm going to be doing a top 10. There are 10 movies in total, so there will be a top 10. Halloween 3, it doesn't have a Michael Myers mask in it, but I'm going to rate the 3 classic masks from Season of the Witch as one, as a whole. And although the original and Halloween 2 use the same masks, there's something different about them which we'll discuss. And also Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 are the same mask as well, but we will rate them differently as well because it deteriorates throughout the series, through Halloween 1 to Halloween 2, so we'll rate them separately. So in at number 10 is the mask from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. It wasn't a great return for the mask. The mask was absolutely terrible. It was just this plain, thin looking mask. Just a cheap mask that they got. And it was just awful, and it just didn't look like Michael Myers. But for a return of Michael Myers, it certainly wasn't a return for a good mask. The story behind using this mask was they couldn't use the mask from Halloween 2 because the actor who used it was allowed to keep it because they didn't think they were going to need the mask anymore because they thought they were done with Michael Myers, and they just couldn't use it because it was really badly worn. However, I would have probably still used that one compared to this mask. Like quite a few of the Michael Myers movies, they did use an alternative mask in one of the scenes, and that was the scene at the schoolhouse where they used this kind of silver looking mask, but I won't rate that one because they only used that for one scene. I think the sad part about using the kind of silvery looking mask was that looked more like the original mask than the mask they used throughout the most of the movie, but they just didn't have enough time because that's the mask that they had to use in the reshoots. And at number 9 is the mask from Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. This mask, again, is almost as bad as the mask from Halloween 4. It's got a kind of long, slender look, and it's got a long kind of parrot beak, long hair. It just looks like a long version of a Michael Myers mask, and I didn't like it at all. I think this was the only mask that they used in the film. There was no need to use another mask for reshoots or whatever, but the mask was just awful. It had this kind of greyish, dirty looking thing about it. I think they tried to make it look a little bit dirty, I don't know, but to me it was just an awful mask. And at number 8 is the 3 masks from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. They're quite iconic looking now. I really like these masks. I didn't put them higher on the list because they simply weren't Michael Myers masks, so they didn't really have a right being on the list to begin with, but they are good masks, so that's why I had to add them to the list. You've got the witch mask, you've got the skeleton mask and the pumpkin mask, and some of the scenes in the movie are quite iconic for the masks, and I think that worked really well. So I don't really have much complaints about these masks because you can't really compare them to anything else we've seen before. It was the first and the only time we ever saw these masks on screen for a Halloween movie, so I liked them, but I just couldn't really put them high on the list because they weren't Michael Myers masks. And at number 7 is the mask from Halloween Resurrection. This is when the list gets a little bit better. The masks aren't terrible, they're okay, and the Halloween Resurrection mask was okay, but the reason I didn't like it as much as the rest of them is because it looked a little bit too dark, a little bit too menacing for my liking, and a little bit too gothic. It was just a little bit dark basically. The mask was okay. I actually had this mask. I got it from Cinema Secrets years and years ago, and I sold it because I got a better mask. But overall it was an okay mask, but it's something, maybe because the movie was so bad, it kind of reminds me that the movie was bad, so when I look at the mask I think I just don't want to see it. And at number 6 is the mask from Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I have a few issues with this mask. Overall it looks like a good mask, especially in the film. In the dark scenes it looks quite menacing, but to me it looks like it was built with clay. It looks like a heavy mask, maybe a bodybuilder's face. The Myers in that film looks too clunky and too big. That's what I didn't like about it. But overall it was an okay mask. The hair was pretty good in it. The hair wasn't slicked back and anything. It was a little bit messy. I quite liked that about the mask. So yeah, it was overall an okay mask, but it was a little bit too clunky looking for me. And at number 5 is the mask from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now I know there's not much difference between the mask from Halloween 2 and Halloween 1, but the mask in Halloween 2 was not as good as the mask from Halloween 1 because it was too open. You could see most of his face by the end of the movie, too much blood. It was realistic, and that's why it's high on my list. It was a realistic mask that looked like it's been worn and through the wars, and that's why I like it. But again, I would have put it a lot higher if they just made it a little bit more intact. It was just too open and too ripped apart. It was almost not a mask by the end of the movie, but it was still a good mask, quite scary, and that's all you can ask for a Michael Myers mask. And at number 4, no surprise, it's Rob Zombie's Halloween 1. Similar to what I said about Halloween 2, this mask was a little bit better, it was more intact, and I think it was a good mask. I liked the story behind the mask as well. The mask being under the floorboards for 17 years, it's got a little bit dusty, and it was a realistic looking mask. One of the best masks that I've seen since the originals, so that was great. But yeah, I think any redeeming factor that came out of the remakes is the masks. The masks were pretty good, especially the mask from the 2007 movie. And at number 3 is the mask from Halloween 2 from 1981. Now I know you're all going to say it, but it's the same mask from Halloween. Yes, it's the same mask. However, it's a different actor that wore the mask, so the mask seemed a lot wider this time because the actor using it had a wider face. Also, the mask was a little bit worn from filming Halloween 1, so it's got a little bit yellowish that I read anyway. It's got a bit more yellowish. The hair wasn't really finished again. And overall, the mask was a good mask. It was a scary looking mask, but it looked a little too wide, and that was not the mask's fault, it was the actor's fault, and because of that, it's at number 3. And at number 2, and you're all going to hate me for this, is the iconic mask from Halloween 1978. Yes, this is one of the best masks ever, and it's a great mask. However, it doesn't beat out Top Spot, which I'll discuss in a minute. I think the Halloween mask, it was a rush job. We all know that it was a rush job. It was a Captain Kirk mask. They just spray painted the white and the rest is history. It was a good mask, and we'll always know it as being the iconic mask from Halloween. Nothing's going to take that away. Personally, to me, I love it, but it's just not my number 1 spot. And again, like I said, the rest is history. So in at number 1, and that just leaves one mask, and that's the mask from Halloween H2O 20 years later. Now, this is probably the movie that has the most masks used, and it has the most issues and the most history with the masks, and basically the fruition of how the masks were used. Now, the mask that I'm referring to as the number 1 is the main mask that they use mostly throughout the movie. Yes, there's a CGI scene where there's a CGI mask. There's a couple other scenes that have a little dodgy masks in them as well, which were reshoots again, just like Halloween 4. Those masks were terrible, and I'm glad they didn't use them throughout. However, I just wish they used that main mask all the way through the movie. The main mask that I'm talking about received less criticism than the other masks that were used in the movie. I think the biggest criticism that the H2O main mask had was it had wider eyelids, or wider eye openings, so you could see his eyes more, because the shape, the boogeyman, was supposed to be something you couldn't really see, and you couldn't really see his eyes. I agree with that, but in my opinion, overall, I think the H2O mask was the best mask out of them all. And I love the H2O mask so much, I've actually got myself a replica of it. This isn't a great replica. This is the closest I've got, or I've seen, to the main mask that was used in the movie. It's a little bit too brown here, and the mask is a little bit too puffy. I'll need to fix that. But overall, I just think the H2O mask was the best. And a lot of people did say that this was the closest mask that they got to the original Halloween. So that's my top 10 masks from the Halloween movies, guys. What do you think? What's your top 10, or what's your top 1 at least? Let me know down below in the comments section. So the reason I've done this video is because we're coming closer to the new Halloween movie. We got a new poster a few weeks ago showing a kind of glimpse of the Halloween mask, and also Trick or Treat Studios are releasing the Halloween mask shortly. It's up for pre-order just now, and we'll be able to see photographs of that late July as well. So it'll be interesting to see what that mask looks like after 40 years. We don't know where the mask's been. It seems like a documentary crew in the movie have got themselves a hold of it, and that's how Michael gets the mask back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that mask, how it compares to the original as well as the rest of the movies in the franchise. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.